Welcome to Bold Talk series where creativity, leadership, ideas, innovation come together. My name is Epi Ludvik, and today I have a privilege to have a short one-on-one conversation with Ida Tin, co-founder of Clue and founder of Femtech Assembly. Ida, great seeing you. Welcome to our Bold Talk series. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm good.
Great. Well, was truly looking forward to this conversation. You're a truly an adventurous woman. Let's start first when you once led a motorcycle tours across Mongolia and Cuba and traveled solo across the US for 2 years. How did those rugged journeys shape your sense of leadership, risk, and the kind of world you want to have built now?
So the motorcycling didn't come out of the blue. I grew up traveling on motorcycles since I was 1 year old with my parents and my brother. So I have seen a lot of the planet that we live on. And I think that has definitely shaped my life, both in terms of what I find meaningful to work on, but maybe also, you know, thinking diversity is a really kind of foundational part of what this planet is. I would say that I probably learned something about, well, creating my own work life and being guided and led by what felt meaningful in my own system and creating an organization and clue and a culture that was aligned with my sort of deep self felt sense of purpose and values more than maybe a norm because I had never worked anywhere that I didn't pick myself. So, I had really no idea what normal is. So I did what thought made a lot of sense. And then people would say, actually, this is a little bit unusual. And probably also being good at reading people and reading situations and kind of navigating very uncertain surrounding and circumstances and foreign cultures and all of that.
Amazing. I thought initially you were inspired. I'm not sure if you saw this movie, The Motorcycle Diaries. Have you heard about this movie? Yeah.
Sure.
No, I thought you were inspired by that, but it's amazing to get inspired by your parents and seeing and that part of the journey from early days and shaping you who you are today. And this is truly amazing. Now, before Clue existed, you started this thinking about this period tracking was largely a private and not a something that people discuss like an analog practice. What first sparked the idea that this intimate part of life could and should be reimagined through thoughtful technology that you have built, which is incredible, amazing?
It actually started with this question of why have nobody innovated in family planning methods since the pill came out in the 50s. And it made me a little bit angry
Mm,
because it felt like a really important thing to know how to not get pregnant when you don't want to be pregnant and not have a solution that just felt unsafe or uncomfortable or even dangerous. So I wanted to create a new type of birth control and started out with that idea. Also realized that hardware is hard. I wanted to measure hormones in saliva. And my co-founder said we should start building a peer tracking app at the same time because that's a great way to kind of get in and understand this space. And then as we were building that, we understood that when you start collecting data on women's cycles, you can support them with information, knowledge, insights about all kind of things that goes on in that cycle, contraception being one of them. But it really was my own experience of having tried birth control pills that didn't quite work for me and, condoms for many years. And just is like, why must this be so difficult? And also like, you know, it, this is like a really big question for human mankind. Like how many people are we going to be on this planet? And how do we help people have agency over their bodies in this really important way? So it felt important to me in my own life, but also sort of in a global sense, it felt really important. I also felt like a great business opportunity, honestly. I mean,
yeah,
there's still hundreds of millions of people without access to birth control. I was like, but they will have phones. We could do
yeah,
something there.
yeah. It's amazing. Now, what made you realize this could be a much more than just an app, a movement that will reshape how technology engages with women's health?
I think I was really fascinated by data. This was at the time of quantified self and this idea that if you have data about your body, you can hack it, you can improve it, you can understand it, you can
Mhm.
navigate it, you can stay healthy. And the more I learned about women's lives and that part of life, which is related to reproductive health, the more I understood that it really connects to kind of all areas of life. It's connected to our identity, our sexuality, our fertility, our pains, our moods, like so many things. So it really became more and more this understanding of like, wow, when you have data on the cycle, you really have an extremely central data set to help people with a bunch of different things. And we saw that coming back with researchers reaching out to Clue, wanting to do research on our data set because the world had never have had access to this level of understanding and data on women's cycles before. And then suddenly it was like, wow, what if you look at, something like air pollution and women's health or mood and cycle data and, um, young women's bleeding patterns. There were so many questions that then suddenly the world started being able to ask and have insights into. And that is just, it keeps growing. It
Amazing.
keeps growing our understanding of how much we can do with this data set.
Yeah, having that conviction, right? That you know that now you're into something and seeing that data, patterns of data is what truly gives you that clarity that you bound to solve is really a big problem that didn't really exist as a solution for now. Uh, Ida, you coined the term femtech, and when you coined the term femtech, what resistance or skepticism did you face when trying to frame a woman's health tech as a serious category, or how did you turn that into a true momentum that is today?
I think one of the things I realized that the barrier to advancing technology in women's health is not so much that people are against it, it's just that
Mm,
they don't think about it or it doesn't, it's hard to understand what is women's health even if you don't live in these bodies or, even if you do, how do you relate to somebody having endometriosis if you have never felt it? What does it feel like to be pregnant if you've never tried it? What does it feel like to go through menopause? The cultural kind of expansion work has always felt needed and important. And that has been either, the way we form the product or the way we've created science or the way we have created a brand, like many different things where we were like, actually, this is just a really exciting, normal part of life. It cannot be a taboo. It cannot be embarrassing. It's amazing. It's the foundation of human on the planet. Like it's an incredible, magical biological system. Let's explore it and talk about it. I don't think I can take any credit for having created momentum in this sector. I came up with the term because I realized that there were people working in all these different companies doing something that felt related, but nobody understood it as a shared movement in technology. Also, not the people building it, but I could see that we were sisters and brothers doing this thing. And I knew that to raise money, it's easier if investors can understand that, oh, it's a thing happening. It's a new thing in technology happening. And also get a little bit help with this sort of cultural barrier of men thinking about these things. So I wanted to give it a name that was really easy to say for everybody. Now, if you have the training of thinking about fintech and edutech and whatever tech, it's like, of course, there's also femtech. It's a big part of life. It's a huge part of our spending on health. So, and then we did that. And yeah, my co-founder, he said, we need to, trademark it and make it a public good so nobody can take it and, own it. It's something we can all use we made a Wikipedia entry so that it was kind of anchored and it's a thing and this is where it came from. And then really, I would say the world has made it a
yeah,
thing and
yeah.
given it momentum. And I think because it resonates, the world was ripe with something and this was a grain that something could kind of circle around. People needed a term, I think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Same thing. I remember in the when I started crowdsourcing week, and you look at, for example, crowdsourcing existed for a long time, but it took a one gentleman who was working the Wired magazine, and he coined the term crowdsourcing, and then everything just evolved around that. So
Right.
kudos to you. I mean, this is truly amazing. And Ida, you chose like double, triple hard, from the industry and, you know, uh, solving such a problem. How hard was it also as a woman? Because I know I've talked to investors all the time, and I also talked to a lot of women entrepreneurs. How hard was it that time? I mean, now it's probably a lot easier as a woman to go and raise funds. How hard was it back then?
It was difficult. I did not do it alone, and I did it with a male co-founder and several male. I actually co-founded the company with four guys, and I think that was a big part of why it worked out the way it did.
Hmm.
there are still lots of unconscious biases. I don't feel I've been met with sort of people wanting to be against me because I'm a woman, but I do think that what happens is that you step into this room and something shifts in the social fabric. When women enter a room full of guys, the conversation will shift. There's some discomfort on some level, and I think it's very human. But there's a lot of different dynamics that actually make it hard to get to a yes and a check. So much so that I wrote this guide recently called, it's a guide for men who want to invest into women doing femtech, to try and like educate men on how do we actually have really fruitful conversations, because a lot of things can go a little off. I will say uh, yeah, it's still difficult and it's harder than it should be. We have all the data to show that if you invest into women, they will return capital better, they will be more cash efficient. Like, we know this, and still it doesn't happen. And it is frustrating. And women do get frustrated. And it's hard because then, it's like, am I not pitching right? Am I this or this? But it's a two-way thing. If everything is not being heard just right, you can say whatever. Like, we have to train the hearing, I think, as well.
Yeah. I heard once Kevin O'Leary, the guy from Shark Tank, he was talking about like why he liked to invest in women than invest in men. He said that most of the women, they're a lot more realistic when it comes to the finances, where the man walks in, they ask for this. And that's the reason why a lot of men, they raise a lot more money than women, because they're very unrealistic when numbers, and they excite a lot of these investors because they bring this excitement and whatever the numbers. And so, but he, on his side, he said he loves investing in women entrepreneur because they're a lot more realistic with the numbers. And so, to your point, that is so true. And hopefully, the other investors can also take this as an opportunity, because you truly want an entrepreneur who is very realistic in terms of what they're going to deliver when it comes to finances, right? So this is very important. Now, your journey from a startup to trusted global brand is full of trade-offs, I'm sure. Was there ever a moment when you had to walk away from a tempting opportunity because it clashed with your values?
I mean, when you do digital advertisement, which everybody does to get users,
Yeah.
you do make decisions around how much data do you show or do you share back to the ad networks. And I felt we walked a very sort of, our principle is always like, can we look users into the eyes and tell them exactly what we're doing and they would feel good? I feel good about saying, yes, we being Clue, I'm not there anymore, but yes, Clue does that. We have other people in the market who have chosen differently. And that is disappointing for users whose
Mm.
trust is being, not honored. But it's also, I think, like a systemic issue in the tech world, that these companies then have had very impressive growth, but the expense was that users' trust was disappointed and they get rewarded for it. And that's an unlucky dynamic, right? We think we need to have accountability across the whole tech sector. That's the founders for sure, but it's also the investors and their LPs. What mandate do they give their investors? So I would say it has never been a question like, should we do something similar? That was never an option in my system. But
Mm.
it does feel like you're then competing on unfair
Yeah.
kind of ones, right? If other people are like doping and we are not, like, that sucks. And that has been that feeling. But I mean, I would rather say there's been so much amazing opportunity that we didn't have the funding to go after. We got FDA clearance as the world's first 100% data driven type of birth control. And straight after we had that, we had to make money fast because the market had learned we couldn't raise as much as we needed. So then we had to switch our product roadmap to something that was faster, And that's moments where I was like, gosh, I wish we had had more capital. We could have deployed, we could have accelerated growth, we could have had, products that would have made a real difference. That's moments where you have to walk away from something, not because it's unethical, but because you have limitation. And that is like, oh, that hurts, but it also makes you sharper and leaner. And, there's also lots of good things about it. But I see this across the sector in femtech. Lots of companies are so underfunded that it really hurts innovation, it hurts the growth, it hurts it's just everything. Like it would be very meaningful if there was more capital for some of these companies that have already proven, themselves.
Yeah, I mean, rushing to all these things. I see a lot of times, talk to a lot of entrepreneurs. Their biggest mistakes, like rushing to trying to figure out a product market fit, which they haven't really honed it well and go deep and understand very well what their product market fit, and wasted so much time and effort and energy. Which truly, it's something what you just said. So that's amazing. This is a short format conversation, Ida. I would love to take this conversation to the next level. I think there's a lot to talk about this subject, and hopefully that we can do that in the near future. I like to ask this as a last question to my guests, and that is about the word bold. What does that mean to you personally?
Walt?
Bold.
Oh,
Bold.
bold. I was
Yeah.
like, which bold. It's really funny. I relate actually very strongly to that term because I was in some workshop when I was like maybe 20 and we had to do these shields and put like our core values on them. And one of them was bold. And I think for me, it's about how do you not play yourself small?
Mm,
And especially as a leader, like nobody is served well if you play yourself small. The team needs you to be like the most awesome version that you can muster in every single moment, and hopefully that's a learning curve and you grow. But it takes a lot of courage to be a bold version of yourself. But I think we need all the human potential on this planet to like go full force in solving all the many challenges we have. We don't have time for people like thinking that they can't make a difference. Everybody can make a difference.
yeah. Yeah.
We need them to.
Yeah, very well said. Be better version. I always say I have this sign in front of me. It says, "Me, be better version of myself every single day," and
Yeah, there you go.
that's really what really pulls me through, because we have so much potential, but we always underestimate that because we truly not have bold thinking. And I think that's what's required. Yeah, so great to see you. So great to have you here. Hope you have a great summer time. Until next time, take care, be great, and be bold. Bye bye.
Thank you so much, Epi.
Thank you.
Thank you.